Hi, this is the first video I've ever uploaded to YouTube on my own. Now, if you scroll through my channel, there's going to be a lot of videos that my son posted when he was younger, because he would see other YouTubers posting videos about playing games or doing whatever. He would want to do it too. It was pretty harmless, so I told him he could do it, but he had to do it on my channel because, yeah, you're 11, dude. You're not. He was at the time, and it's like, you're not getting full unfettered access that I can't check up on. That's not happening. Sorry, world's just too dangerous. So those are on there. I will never delete them because my son's almost 20 now, and he doesn't sound like that anymore. So when I feel nostalgic, I go watch them because, you know, it's like I hear his little voice, and it's like, oh, that's just so sweet. And it's like, yeah, but he's grown now. He doesn't sound like that anymore. So that's why I have him. Any mom of a boy can relate. A boy who has grown into a man, you know, and one day you look up and it's like, whoa, hey son, what's up? And that's, my son is about 6 feet tall. I'm 5'4", so, you know. One of my friends in particular he was like, you know, you should start a YouTube channel. Because apparently because I want to talk about my experience having Guillain-Barre syndrome. I feel it's something that hardly anybody knows about. I certainly had never heard of it before I was diagnosed. I kind of, like, I'd seen it on paperwork before, because vaccine paperwork it has a thing like, have you had Guillain-Barre syndrome? And, you know, back then the answer was no. And vaccines now are done. A vaccine is what triggered my Guillain-Barre syndrome, so I can't have another one of any sort, and I'm not willing to risk it. Anyone who's ever had Guillain-Barre syndrome completely understands why. The type of Guillain-Barre syndrome I had, well, first of all, let's talk about what Guillain-Barre syndrome is. Guillain-Barre syndrome is when your own immune system kicks into overdrive, and it attacks the myelinization, I hope I'm saying that right, of your peripheral nervous system. So your brain and your spine don't get affected, although they hurt like hell at first. I don't know why. But arms, legs, all that, what gets affected. It's very devastating, even if you have the kind, I had the kind that I describe as a whirlwind. You know, it's not chronic. It does happen. I have been acquainted with someone who does have CIDP. I don't remember what that stands for exactly, but it's a chronic form of Guillain-Barre syndrome. It keeps coming back. It's the gift that keeps on giving. That's not what I had. I had the very acute type. I went from beginning symptoms on a Sunday to that Saturday being in the ICU, unable to barely breathe, or, you know, my lungs just at capacity because it was starting to affect my diaphragm. I came very close to being intubated. Fortunately, I heard that word and I was like, no. And I basically sat there and, like, did breathing exercises to the best of my ability. And that's what saved me from having to stay in there longer. I was just doing everything I could to try to do my part, which wasn't much. When I was in the ICU, if you'd have put a suitcase full of $100 bills down in front of me and said, you can have it, you just got to point to it, and you can have it, I couldn't have done it. Like, I couldn't make that, like, I couldn't move my hands well enough to point when I was that sick. The symptoms started like I said, on a Sunday. I'd gone to work. When I got up that morning, my fingers and toes were tingling. I was like, okay, I must have just slept weird, because I flop around like a fish out of water when I'm asleep. And I was like, okay, well, it'll go away. So, and you got to keep in mind that I get up at this point, I was getting up at 2:45 in the morning because I had to be to work at 4. So, okay, I get to work, I'm at work, this isn't going away. It's very odd to me. It's a little concerning, but I'm not like really freaking out yet. So I go to my break that day and I get some orange juice. I love orange juice. I really can't drink it a lot, but I do like it. So I got an orange juice and I got some snacks, and my orange juice just tasted awful. It was like it like when you brush your teeth. It was kind of like that, kind of like a metallic taste almost. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. Maybe it's just bad. Maybe, So I throw it out, and then I get a Sprite, and the Sprite tastes weird too. Okay, well, this has got to be me, because I don't think that this company and this company have anything to do with each other. So I get that. I take a bite of my snack, and that doesn't taste right either. Finally, I get through my day. This was the day, like I've told other people about. The manager comes over because they need the chicken, put it back in the chicken cooler from when we get it in. She was looking for a guy to do it, and I was kind of like, yeah, what you need? What you need? So she was like, oh, this needs to get put away, and we need this person to do it because, he's a man. And okay, what do you need? Is that it? That's all you need? The chickens? Yeah. Just get out of the way. It's okay. I got it. I put them away. You got to consider this is 12 boxes of chicken on a U-boat. Each box weighs between 50 and 60 pounds. There's a dozen of them on a U-boat. So I understand, yeah, that is a heavy thing. But I push it in the back. I get all the boxes of chicken put up on the shelf, go home, hand my Sprite to my husband. And I'm like, dude, does this taste right to you? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. What's going on? And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just overtired, because insomnia has been my constant companion pretty much since birth. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm just drained, so I need to go up and go to bed. I go to bed, I fall asleep almost immediately. That should have been my clue that something else was wrong, because I can rarely do that. I mean, like, without pharmaceutical intervention of some sort, I almost never hit the pillow and go to sleep. So I get up the next day, and it's worse, folks. It's worse. The tingling has gone to complete numbness in my hands and feet. In my arms, we got numbness to here, we got tingling to about here. And similar ratios on my legs. This isn't right. But that wasn't I start throwing up and getting diarrhea at the same time. It's not a fun experience. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. So at this point, I'm like, no, this is wrong. Something's fucked up. I gotta go. I gotta get checked. I call my husband to come home, take me to the ER, because I cannot drive. So I get there. Okay. Any woman, especially middle-aged, we're told 2 things. Have you thought about losing about 15 to 20 pounds? It's anxiety. Okay. Having had one very nasty paranormal experience in my lifetime, looking into the faces of things that don't come from this dimension, and that didn't make me go numb. Now, it made me scream until I was hoarse, but it did not make me go numb. So I'm thinking if I didn't go numb from a psych issue, then I probably never will. This is not anxiety, folks. But they send me home. Go back to your primary care in 2 days. Okay, whatever. By that Wednesday, I couldn't dress myself. I could not work my hands well enough to dress myself. My husband had to get me dressed, take me to the hospital. Again, well, at first I went in to see my PCP. He thought I had a stroke. So he sent me for an MRI of my head. There's nothing wrong with my head. Yeah, really, folks, there was nothing wrong with my head, everyone who knows me. But I'm still numb. I'm still having these issues, and it's getting worse. Can't hardly walk. I finally get to where I can walk, or not walk. I got to the hospital again, but by the time I went back to the hospital on Wednesday, my legs weren't working, like barely at all. I could barely move them. My husband had to carry me to the car. And I'm pretty much the same size he is, so it was probably pretty difficult for him. And thank God some passerby kid, I say kid, he was probably like 21, helped him get me in the car. We get to the thing, we get to the ER, they ignore me for 12 hours. They finally get around to checking on me. And I know they think I'm drug seeking. I was there 2 days before. But by the time they finally get around to checking on me, I don't have any reflexes. And they're like, oh, can you walk? Bitch, I can't even stand. I barely stand up. I'm like clinging to my husband like a toddler. You know how they do. And they finally admit me. They do all these tests. They finally narrow it down. It must be Guillain-Barre syndrome. So I've never heard, like I said, I really didn't know what it was. So I had my husband, I'm like, look this up. This is how you spell it. Look it up. And he hands me his phone because God knows I don't have the coordination to go looking around for anything on the. So I'm reading it, and I'm like, fuck, this is gonna be fun. They send me out to the Reading Hospital. I'm in Pennsylvania, so I live in Pottstown. Reading's about 20 miles west. To do my treatments, I got plasmapheresis treatments. It's where they take the contaminated plasma out and they replace it. I had 8 treatments. I got transferred to the rehab on June 10th, and I couldn't walk or anything when I got to the rehab. I could barely sit up. I couldn't move my body. And I managed to, from June 10th to July 5th, get to where I was walking with the walker. And I was able to write again. The great thing about growing up Catholic is if you're trying to practice writing, you have a never-ending repertoire of things to write. If you know all the prayers that they make you do and all that. So I do that. I'm in the rehab. I'm doing everything I can. At first, I couldn't bathe myself or anything, and I went from May 25th to like June 12th, and I didn't get a proper shower. I mean, I got sponge baths, bed baths, but anyone who knows that's not the same. And the first shower I had to be in like a shower wheelchair. They had to bathe me. That was awful. I was taught to be super independent, so that was awful. And eventually it got to the point I gained a little more back every day. So by the time, July 5th rolled around, I was able to walk with a walker. I was doing pretty good. They dismissed me from rehab, and I come home. Now, one thing, I don't work a job now. I paint miniatures, like D&D miniatures, Warhammer miniatures, anything like that, because I can get completely drained with no warning at all. Like, I call it, like, if you've been in the pool for a while, you've been in there for an extended period of time, and you get out and how everything feels like, everything feels like you're just heavy and weighted down. That's what it feels like when my energy runs out. It's just like getting like a sandbag suit just put over your shoulders and weighing you down. And I don't want to have a job where that happens to me mid-shift. So that's why I haven't gone back to work. Before I was working in a deli with a slicer, and for over a year out, even after getting on rehab, my hands weren't 100%. So yeah, I'm not taking my neurologically damaged hands and putting them anywhere near a slicer. That's just a recipe for disaster, So I didn't go back to my job. Like I said, I paint miniatures. My husband takes care of me. He takes excellent care of me. He always has, but since all this has happened, and basically this was like that. The silver lining was the shift in my husband's and our relationship. It really, basically, it taught me how to really trust someone because I didn't have a choice. and I was terrified. And he made it so it wasn't so bad. It's like, I do not know what I would have done if I hadn't had him. And to this day. So he took care of me. And now that he works and I stay here and I do my, I guess side hustles or whatever, but he does take care of me completely. I don't care who's got a problem with it. Just don't come after me with this, oh, you should respect yourself more and want to be more independent. I was independent, and is what it is, shit happens. But I couldn't ask for a better partner. If I could have picked one out of a catalog, I couldn't have gotten a better husband. He took such care of me. He was right there with me. He has the big thing is he met me when I was 13, and so he knows what I grew up around. So he was there to kind of mitigate. And it was when I got out of the high priority floor, it's not intensive care, but it's like the next step up, down from intensive care. It's not regular patient care, but it's not intensive care. I don't know. I guess it's the patient first of the hospital. I don't know how to put it. When I got stepped down to a regular patient room, when I was down there, I was put up amongst a bunch of dementia patients, which, okay, they need their treatment. I'm not saying otherwise, but if you have a very traumatic past and there's a bunch of sundowners around you, it's fucking terrifying, especially if you are completely immobile. Now, the hospital kept a really good tight rein on everything. We didn't have any, I've heard of happening, because my father was one of the people who did it before he died, of, them freaking out, running around in the hospital. My dad he had ripped out his IVs, taken off his clothes, and he was running around the hospital completely naked before he died. That didn't happen, thank God. But that was another thing that just brought back a whole bunch of trauma. And so basically it was kind of like the trial by fire. It was a big psychological trial by fire. Like, am I going to get out of this with my sanity intact? Because I wasn't real sure. I had things happen that had never happened before. My big delusion. At first I was kind of keeping the secret, but then someone told me, well, if you really think about it, that's kind of cool. I didn't think so at the time, but what I didn't know is that Dilaudid, they gave me Dilaudid, and before I went to the ICU, and I had been on Ativan too. They didn't play nice together, and I didn't know that Dilaudid can make you trip. If anyone ever says, oh, I'm going to give you some Dilaudid, my next answer is going to be, no, the fuck you're not. So I started tripping. Like, I thought that I was Darth Vader after he'd been injured on Mustafar. Yeah. And so I'm sitting here thinking, I was thinking that the people around me were like droids, and I couldn't figure out why they didn't look like droids. And then finally at one point, 2 hours into this, my brain goes, you're a middle-aged woman from the planet Earth. You can't use the Force, and there was no cool epic battle on a volcano planet for you. You're just tripping, honey. Okay, that's good, because I didn't want to be fucked up like that anyway. But it's just, I want to talk about the experiences like that. The getting yourself back, getting your sensations back, problems with things that can happen to you that you don't expect until it does. I just want to talk about that experience and then talk about some of my painting as well. That's what I'm going to be doing on the channel. So if that's your cup of tea, you can subscribe. I can't promise a schedule yet because I'm kind of scatterbrained. So I'm going to have to crunch the numbers in my head on what I think I can realistically do as far as an uploading schedule. So I am just trying to get things handled in that regard. So, yeah, that's it. I'm not good at this, in case you couldn't tell. If you like that, stick around, and I'll be uploading again soon. Thanks.